Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Shine Daily. It's Tuesday morning, actually, the second day of the month of May 2023. Many thanks for joining us once again. My name is Janice Coven. Welcome.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a good day to be alive and a great day to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Uyai Anyek, and thanks for joining us this morning. Do not forget to follow us across all the social media platforms. Engage on the conversations that you see there. You do this by following us across all social media platforms. You can find all that at spectrumtv.ng. Of course, our phone lines will be displayed in the course of the program this morning. Feel free to call in, send us WhatsApp or text messages. I would love to have your contribution on the issues that will be raised on the floor of Rise and Shine. Good morning once again. Good
Yeah.
morning, Janet.
Good morning,
Yes,
Uyai.
good morning. Good morning. Good morning to the Nigerian conversation for today.
And good morning to all workers. Of
Yes,
course,
so
the public
yeah.
that is more like promoting whatever the country stands for at this point. But a lot of conversations around, Workers' Day, even though we'll get to that in the course of our conversations this morning. But I think one that is really trending this morning is 900,000 or thereabouts, and it really gives cause for concerns. I know that lots of Nigerians are like, is this really true? Fine, the basic salary can be that amount, right? But I think that when you get to say that that's just what you earn in a whole month, when you even add more like incentives, you add what do you call it now? You add benefits, you add all the allowances, and it still arrives at 942,000. I think that's where Nigerians are, beginning to question and raise brows towards.
Are they questioning that it's too small or it's too much?
Of course, they are saying it's too small.
It's too small.
Of course, yes.
Well,
Is when you put 900. Now, there was a quick calculation. I'll
Yeah.
just go through it. It says 942,000 times 12. That's 11.3 million naira in a year. Now, when you calculate 11.3 million naira times 4 years, you're having 45.2 million naira. Now you put 45 in 1 year now, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, in 4 years.
yeah.
In 4 years. So you now put it side by side with some of the kinds of properties this politicians amass for themselves.
Yeah.
And you're asking, is this really 45.2 million naira in 4 years?
Well, if I take my salary 45 point something in 4 years divided by two, if I take a chunk of the millions I earn in 2 years and make in some kinds of investments, I will definitely be able to make that kind of money. Sometimes we're in a hurry to quickly calculate that, okay, this money is done, gotten through dubious ways. Do not forget that by reason of the seat that these people also sit, they have access to people of means. So for instance, I can hear that there is a contract here, and because of my personality and the office I carry, I can bid for such contracts and I have the jobs, execute it, and be able to afford some of the good things of life that I do. I can also take out of the chunk of the millions I earn in 2 years and make certain investments that will yield me hundreds of millions. I will still be able to afford that kind of life. So although we know that it's difficult to explain that, okay, our public office, minders do not, steal money. That's a different conversation. But that's not be your first bet. Let us also remember there are capital intensive investments that yield. There's so many other ways people can increase their money, not only by stealing.
Anyways, some group of Nigerians are not taking that particular comments there by Chris Ngige, the labor minister, with a pinch of salt. There's been a lot of calculations going on right now because of what he said yesterday in commemoration of Workers' Day in the country. Anyway, it's left for you watching us right now to decide if this is actually true or it is not true. But then again, the basic salary of the minister is 942,000. I think constitutionally that is what it is supposed to be. But we know how those things work sometimes. A lot of fringe benefits here and there. Even though the minister is saying, even coupled with the fringe benefits and even with monies that he's supposed to pay his staff with all, of course, you know that we get to bring you up to date with some of the major conversations making the rounds in the country. And we are going to start start with our flash news this morning, some of which is going to come from Lagos State. Let's go all the way to Lagos State now, where we see that the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has announced the first set of electric buses for the state's mass transit scheme. Now, he announced this on his Instagram page as he shared in the Lagos Mass Transit Master Plan as part of our increased efforts to modernize every sector of Lagos. Thanks to a partnership with at Owando PLC, Lagosians can expect a cleaner and greener public transportation system with the ability to travel 280 kilometers at full charge, taking into account our unique travel times in Lagos. Our electric buses are a game changer, with an average daily usage of 200 kilometers by exiting BRT. There is no fear that the buses can stop while in transit. He also went ahead to say that our new electric buses will not only reduce carbon emission, but also increase efficiency. This means that Lagosians can say goodbye to high fuel costs and hello to cost-efficient transportation. Yeah, would we say a big congratulations to Lagos State? Now they are the first in the country to actually have an electric bus, in operation as we speak. But where it is for me, I know that there's been a lot of conversations about carbon emission, even on the African global platforms now. Sometime last year, we saw Vice President Emil Sibajo drive these kinds of conversations, and it was said that Africans, we are all more like the least consumers or expellers of carbon emission, but we get to suffer the brunt more. And these were conversations that were pushed by Emil Sibajo. But we see that in Lagos State, that feat has been achieved, getting an electric bus as well. I think one of which reason is we are going to also reduce on the consumption of fuel. We are also going to reduce carbon emission, which is also very, very good. When we think about carbon emission, we think about how the ozone layer, ozone system is being depleted. We are looking at a situation where we even have, what's it called now? This thing for weather now.
What? Okay, now that
okay, so
now your remembrance has
yes
jumped my remembrance, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's the whole idea, and it's okay to say that yes, congratulations to Lagos.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as a forward-thinking leader, and Lagos State continues also to blaze the trail in terms of development and moving us closer to world best practices in terms of a lot of things. Now imagine that, and these are things that some smaller African countries have already been able to achieve. I think it's Zambia now that has greatly moved from using fossil fuels, and so that they're leaning into a lot of electric vehicles. And one would think, okay, so it's beautiful to see that someone in Nigeria is already thinking that far. Now looking at the fact that he's also talking about collaboration with Owando PLC to be able to build charging substations in most public places, either at filling stations or malls, so that if the buses are even in transit in a particular area, they could just drive into a mall and charge. So you can see how much more development this is going to bring into Lagos State. Not even forgetting how congested Lagos is and how transportation is a big issue. If we are even going to start celebrating, we are going to celebrate from the fact that we see someone thinking forward ahead of subsidy removal, which is going to a very large extent, we know we already expect that fuel is going to be very expensive upon the removal of subsidy. Now, depending on the number of buses that have been provided and the routes that are going to be assigned, to a very large extent that is reduced if we do not politicize the usage of the buses. That is something else. If we just put it to a management that does well by the citizens, we have managed it to a very great extent. And this is very, very laudable. Remember that I think that was last year where we had a situation where a certain young lady was raped on the bus and all of that. These particular buses have CCTVs, and we expect that everything that is needed to monitor the activity on the buses will be followed through. Yes, will be followed through. So this is a really nice one by the Lagos State government. Yes, of Lagos. Now, what I would think also will be how many more governors will want to jump on this. If we even say, okay, it's about 27 days for the rest of them to go, for the ones incoming, this is a stride that should be taken over by other state government. For instance, come back to Akwa Ibom. We have a really clean city, you know, to a very large extent, that can leverage on these kinds of things. Now, if Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu gives the financial quotation for what it costs him to get these buses, you will find out that more people will argue less because of how much it's going to move the lives of the common man forward. So if we have more state governors not wasting our state funds and using it on projects that don't necessarily touch the people, and get these kinds of innovations moving in the state, and in more parts of the country, it will move our lives forward. Definitely. Let us even begin to cut down on our dependence on petrol.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you say that we are using these electric buses now, of course fuel consumption will reduce. Now,
but we'll have the question of where do we get power, constant power supply to charge.
Power to charge those buses and all of that. But I think that before the government of Lagos State, actually took up the the project, they must have put modalities on ground to see how they can solve the challenges when it comes up, because it will also be counterproductive when you say you're going to get this kind of buses without necessarily trying to like put into consideration the challenges of your country and all of that. But something you said, which I think it's worthy of note, let the buses or the usage of the buses not be politicized at the end of the day. If we're saying we're doing things for citizens, let it be for citizens. Let them be able to enjoy the dividends of democracy also. And taxpayers' monies, most of the monies used for these projects are taxpayers' money. So if you're using my taxes to acquire these kinds of things, then I should be able to also enjoy them as well.
And then maybe the system of ticketing, how how people are going to be able to get on the buses, because it's not going to be like normal motorway.
Like
that
you just
get
go
to the road and you just hail. There's going to be a system. It should be made in such a way that is affordable and reachable for everyone. There should be a system. And something else that is beautiful about this, Governor Sanwo-Olu is talking about inching closer to making Lagos a smarter city.
And that is laudable. Has always been on the on the
front
map
burners
of things.
For Lagos.
Yes, for Lagos State. And right now Lagos seems to be like cosmopolitan. But when you talk about cosmopolitan as well, and the smart city that Babajide Sanwo-Olu has said he's going to make it become. But let's go over now to quite more interesting conversations. I know that the 10th National Assembly, the tussle for the leadership has been heated up, and it's still heating up. As we speak now, there are factions that are saying, look, let it go to the south. There are also factions that think that the Senate presidency and even the speakership, of course, of the House of Representatives should go to the southeast, while there are other groups that also think that the Senate presidency and even the speakership of the House of Representatives should rather remain in the north. These are some of the conversations that we have concerning the 10th National Assembly that will be governor of Akwa Ibom State, talking about Godswill Akpabio, and Senator-elect now representing Ikot-Ikpene Senatorial District, Godswill Akpabio, has informed the President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, of his intention to be President of the 10th Senate. Akpabio, who disclosed this after meeting with the President at his official residence at the Aso Rock Villa during the weekend, also promised to work closely with the incoming administration in the interest of the youth. The meeting held only a few hours after another Senate presidential aspirant, Abdul Aziz Yari, visited Buhari and urged the governing All Progressives Congress to allow the North to produce the next Senate helmsman, having contributed substantial votes towards the victory of the president-elect Bola Tinubu. Now, let's just hold it there. Fine. There's something about these particular elections, or rather like elections that have preceded this one. Now, when politicians feel that because the chunk of the votes came from this geopolitical zone, does it also imply that when we are looking for people to appoint in very key positions,
of course, one
in the
would think that
21st
that's not the
century?
best thing to do. You're looking at the fact that governance should be far-reaching to everyone in the country, not necessarily. It was President Muhammad Buhari who said he was the president for none and president for all. You know, I think that was something he said
Yeah.
initially when he became president. But then again, some politicians will always look for something that is a bargaining chip for them, and also even among their coffers, these things excite some of them. Oh, you made sure that the
You
south, or
delivered your
yeah, you
units.
delivered your unit, so to bring us in the numbers that helped us win. Some of those things are like numbers. Of course, Senator Akpabio's visit to President Buhari yesterday was to defend also his ambition for the seat of the Senate presidency. And if you remember quite well, when he was the governor of Akwa Ibom, he was someone who had a great mouth to talk about the things that he has done, and he did not forget to also bring that leg to the president in his conversation yesterday, reminding him of the innovations, the infrastructure, the educational strides, socially, and human empowerment that he brought to bear in Akwa Ibom when he was the governor of the state. Now he says, if I become the Senate president, I'm going to bring a lot more of these kinds of reforms into the Senate in ways and manners we do business. Of course, you're looking at how we are going to be able to expand economically. Of course, he said, and also assist the next administration to succeed. And, that is something that is also important for the country. And when you're talking about a man who is thorough in his dealings, in the person of Senator Godswill Akpabio, that is also something that we can give to him. Earlier, we're talking about moving a place, from a normal city to a cosmopolitan city. That's the kind of thing that Senator Akpabio would also have on his sleeves. So he's forward thinking in terms of innovation, and he brings a good air with him. And I also like the fact that he's someone who is able to sell himself. So I can imagine how much he must have excited the ears of President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday. We will now think of how much impact these visits to the president is going to be. It's just like when we were having, presidential candidates give courtesy of that particular seat. Yeah. And we know that the next couple of days will definitely hold a lot of unfolding as to who eventually becomes the 10th, the Senate president for the 10th Assembly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fact that, he was very particular about mentioning youths there. I think is a whole lot of reawakening of the consciousness of the fact that the youth in Nigeria are no more joking. We have seen a change of narrative when it comes to the political season this period. And so I see that every leader or every person that wants to aspire for a particular position is taking real cognizance of the youth, population in the country, and that is also good. But I think at this point, it's not something we've also heard that they are like body languages of the president-elect now tilting towards Godswill Akpabio. But there's also the faction, that is like, no, this thing has to be, has to go back to the north or has to be in the north. But I know that one conversation that has, been on the front burner is the situation of what happened in 2015, where we had the likes of Bukola Saraki and Dogara now, the issue between Bukola Saraki and Dogara in 2015, more like a lot of analysts are saying, or politicians are saying, we do not want to enter in the 10th Assembly. But we leave that couple of months from now, couple of weeks from now, I beg your pardon, we'll be seeing who becomes the Senate president and even the deputy Senate president and the speaker also of the House of Representatives. But let's look
it's important we balance it out.
Definitely. We just have to. There are people that are saying that, look, let there be a representative of geopolitical zones when you talk about Hausa, Yoruba, and the Igbos. We have the likes of Ojus or Kalu by the corner there. And I think one other person. Then when we come down south here, we have Godswill Akpabio. We also have former governor of Edo State now, Godwin Obaseki, also on the line for this particular position. It's going to be a whole big tussle. Let's remember also that we said lobbying was the key, you know, to all of this, and we see that these people are pushing and even lobbying even to the president as well, because I would call that lobby as well.
Yes,
you know, where you go to frequent visits now to the president and even president-elect.
All right.
But let's look at our major stories, Oya.
Okay, so on the major stories this morning, let's not forget that yesterday was Workers' Day, celebrated globally to, of course, mark the achievements and the struggles of workers. Yesterday, we saw lecturers, doctors, and others. Now the federal government is saying they are all going to benefit from the pay rise. The federal government's allayed fears of health workers, lecturers, and other federal workers following a 40% pay rise for core civil servants in the country. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, said pay rise for doctors, health workers, lecturers, and others who are not on the consolidated during this year's International Workers' Day in Abuja, which had the theme Workers' Rights and Socio-Economic Justice. The implementation of a 40% pay rise for civil servants on the compass and payment of a peculiar allowance to cushion the effect of inflation on civil servants have generated unrest within the labor circle. Of course, the National Association of Resident Doctors had demanded a 200% pay rise as a result of the action of the federal government, while the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, also decried the disparity in the increase. But speaking during the May Day rally at Eagle Square, Abuja, Ngige assured the workers under different wage structures were already bargaining with their employers on a pay rise. Now, he added that some of those collective bargain agreements, CBAs, were on the verge of being concluded with the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission transmit same for final treatment. Okay, it will also be recalled that since the emergence of the consolidated public service salary structure on the 1st of January 2007, it has not been reviewed by 2019. Okay, so if we remember just about 2 weeks ago or 3, when the information about the pay rise came up on the 40% increase, we had doctors come out to decry the fact that some parastatals and sectors in the country were paid the 40% increase, but they were not included. So this is a very serious issue, and it's good to see that Chris Ngige, the Minister for Labour, had actually addressed it yesterday. So it means that it's not necessarily because the government was trying to boycott them, because initially that's what it looked like. You know that these people, about 2-3 years back, they've been asking for a pay increase. You decide to do a 40% increase and it doesn't cover them. But now Chris Ngige is saying the conversation is in the works with your particular employers of labor. So it's also important for us to see that employers of labor, that the other levels of administration in the country need to go through to help their workers, should not get in the way. And I also think that sometimes this is a problem of, when communication lines are bad, when these kinds of things happen, why don't you educate the workers under your administration that, okay, this conversation is currently going on between us and the federal government, and once we can clear it and move it for consent, we will be seeing our own increase. But it's good to see that these fears are allayed. But we also do hope that it's not just a matter of, okay, give them a statement to calm them down.
Exactly.
And then, in the next 2 years, you see that nothing has happened differently.
Exactly. Because even when we take our minds back to, all of the negotiations between ASU and the federal government, at the end of the day, they are like, we'll do our parts, go do your parts, go back to the classroom. And nothing is ever done. So let it not be that, Chris Ngige has come out to say that, okay, we are going to attend to the pay rise for these group of people. Let us see the implementation of this particular words that have been said. But going forward now, we see that also the president-elect Bola Tinubu has also assured all Nigerian workers of good minimum wage, social and economic justice when his administration takes up. Now, just a whole lot of promises coming from here and there, and I know that President Muhammadu Buhari too has also said, look, President-elect, when you finally take over government and administration, make sure that you respect workers' rights. It is a matter of urgency. Make sure that you respect workers' rights. But then again, once Nigerians feel that this is Buhari shooting himself on the foot, when you say president-elect, make sure you treat workers right. The question will be,
how right did you treat the people under your administration? That's a big question.
Did the 8 years of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari treat workers right?
Yeah.
If you do like a background check now, you find out that most of the strikes and protests that we have seen in this country has been under this particular administration. You know, strikes here and there, protests here and there, and all of that. These are workers put together. So has the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari done workers right? But again, it's a good thing to see that, you know, the president has tasked Tinubu to make sure that he does workers right in the country, because whether we like it or not, they are the productive sector of the economy, and if that sector is grounded, trust me, the economy is also grounded as well.
Yeah, it's definitely grounded as well. Well, we are going to see how, you know, the president-elect, you know, coming into office, what he's going to do differently. You know, that's a big question, and that's an expectation for the coming administration. But of course, we see the president currently give that saddle of responsibility to the man as Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ensure that workers' rights are being respected on, you know, coming into office. When, you know, when he assumes office, we do hope that in the next 1 year we see bills and policies that will help to move the workplace in Nigeria forward. We were having a conversation with our guest yesterday, and we're talking about productivity. We need to see a way that the federal government enhances the work environment for the people. I mean, do not employ 2,000 staff and they come in and do not have anywhere to sit and work. And, you know, when you bring people, we know we usually will have work roles, so I know why I have been employed, what I'm expected to do in this particular. Between this year's marking of the Labor Day and next year's marking, how much increase have we would we have attained as a nation, you know, in terms of our workforce? That is something we must do. Can we say that within the next 1 year we're not going to see a lot more strikes from our workers? Now, those we need to put in indices that helps us to measure and calculate growth in our systems in Nigeria. Yeah, very, very necessary. So, but trying to say, Buhari trying to give the next person advice for the things he didn't quite do well, because I mean the papers yesterday carried how a lot of agencies were decrying that it's been their worst experience so Buhari-led administration has done. But yeah, but then again, we always boils down to, did you touch them where it pinches them the most? You know, so these are more conversations that we have that we have around the Workers' Day and the May Day in itself.
Yeah, definitely. But still looking at the May Day and all of the, you know, all of the felicitation that has trailed the May Day celebration. Now, of course, we also saw the standard bearer of the Labour Party in the person of in the 2023 presidential elections now, and of course Peter Obi also felicitate with Nigerian workers on the occasion of the May Day. He called workers to hold on to those values that encourage productivity in the nation and urged them to remain steadfast. We just take a listen to you know, a particular video we'd like to share with you this morning on that one, before we even come back to look at what happened in Akwa Ibom State and what Governor Dom Emmanuel is charging workers in Akwa Ibom State to do. Meanwhile, I think that video is not ready. We can also take that of Akwa Ibom State if that is ready at this moment.
Has assured workers in Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel has assured workers in the state of a medium housing scheme before the end of his administration on May 29. Speaking during the 2023 International Workers' Day celebration held at the Ibom Hall grounds, the governor said works was ongoing on the project and that some units were already completed, awaiting commissioning before May 29. Appreciating the robust working relationship he has enjoyed with Akwa Ibom workers and by extension the organized labor throughout his tenure, the governor asserted that the government and labor are supposed to partner for the development of the state. This, he affirmed, has been upheld by labor during his tenure. He appealed to them to extend the support to the incoming administration in the state.
I'm going to commission a medium housing scheme for workers before I leave on May 29. You might not know that we've gone far. As of today, we've done a whole lot of units. I don't want to give you the figure so that I might not be wrong. But trust me, we'll commission that before we leave. I really want to thank them for the robust relationship we've had in the past 8 years. It's never been that good. I really want to thank them. And I want to assure them that we came here to serve each other. It is not Labour versus governor or governor versus Labour. We are all working together for the betterment of our people and making things work better for our state. And in these past years, they've done that seriously.
The governor, who enumerated most of the major interventions his government has done to ensure better welfare for the workers, again assured that some of their prayers will be met before the end of his government.
I stand by my promise that certainly I've called a special meeting on Wednesday of the ESCO members, and I'm hoping that report will be ready on Wednesday, and we'll correct those issues of the pensioners if their joint report will be ready by that Wednesday. And they promised me the report will be ready, and we'll correct it for the pensioners on Wednesday. In the past 8 years, we have been so passionate about workers' welfare. Gradually, gently, we will attend to all your prayers.
Presenting a solidarity message at the event, the incoming governor, Pastor Moino, appreciated the worker for fulfilling their pledge to support his emergence in the March 18 gubernatorial election and assured them that he will keep his own part of the bargain upon assumption of office. The governor-elect further promised to further the mutually beneficial government-labor relationship in the state and urged all sectors to synergize in the interest of the state.
Excellency, we want to take this opportunity to thank the Nigerian Labour Congress Akwa Ibom State and the TUC Akwa Ibom State for the overwhelming support that they gave to us during the elections and making sure that we were returned as winning that election. We will keep our side of our promise. We'd like to assure you that we'll continue to build on the good work that His Excellency the King Gabriel Emmanuel has already done. We'll work with you, we'll prioritize your welfare, and we'll ensure that you continue to have a good working relationship between government and the labor.
In his address, the chairperson of the Nigerian Labour Congress Akwa Ibom State, Comrade Sonny James, appreciated the governor for his efforts in improving the working environment and meeting of several workers' demands, especially the payment of workers' entitlement. He expressed optimism that the incoming government will do more for the workers.
Your Excellency, we appreciate your graven desire to improve the wall of work with a view to better the working class in our state. In the last 4 years, Your Excellency, working together, you have partnered with the labor movement of salaries and pensions to reach a rate. We therefore call on the newly elected leaders of our
I think what surprises me the most is that we are at the last minute of this administration, and I'm still hearing promises.
And a transition committee has been put together already.
And I'm still hearing promises and dates for commissioning of things. I don't know if it's the people that are gullible or it's the leaders that are just funny. Because how are you really going to get these things done in 27 or 28 days? It doesn't make sense. Just wind up and wind up, and let us hope that the next person coming in after you will do better, like President Buhari has told President-elect Tinubu to get done. I'm really taken aback by the promises I still hear the state governor making between now and 29. It still shows you how funny people are. You don't even sit down and listen to such things. Next thing, people start screaming and clapping. Not nice at all.
A housing unit, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, has promised Akwa Ibomites and workers, and at this point when I was actually talking, the first thing that came into my mind was miracle, no the tired Jesus, right? We'll take a breather now, and when we come back, of course, all that very interesting conversations. We'll be looking at our daily spotlight, and of course, our focus conversation, what do Nigerians expect after May 29? We'll be right back after joining Mary Joseph for the news brief. Do stay with us.
There's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also allow you said to be the beneficiaries of the death of our parents.
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every state and government, Secretary General,
voting for Spectrum TV to improve on the lives of
Good morning. This is your morning news brief on Spectrum Television, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. I am Francis Adet. We begin the news brief with the President-elect Bola Tinubu, who has promised a living wage that guarantees a decent life while seemingly addressing workers' outcry over the current national minimum wage set at 30,000 naira. Tinubu said in a message posted to his Twitter and Facebook, "We'll have more than a minimum wage." The president-elect assured the nation's labor force that their fight will be his fight. And back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel has appreciated workers in the state for their collaboration and support to his administration over the years, while reiterating his commitment to a better welfare and working conditions for the workers. Speaking during the May Day celebration, addressing the workers, Governor Emmanuel, who attended the International Workers' Day for the last time as a governor, appealed to them to extend their support to the incoming administration in the state. We move to health, where the death toll of Lassa fever in Nigeria so far this year has risen to 154, according to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention. In its 16th-week Lassa fever situation report, the NCDC said there had been a total of 897 confirmed cases recorded from 26 states and 103 local government areas from January 1st to April 23, 2023. A total of 4,908 suspected cases were also recorded during the period under review. Meanwhile, according to World Health Organization, Lassa fever is an acute viral hemorrhagic illness caused by the Lassa virus, a member of the arenavirus family of vectors. Humans usually become infected with the Lassa fever through exposure to food or household items contaminated with the urine or feces of infected mastomy rats. The disease is endemic in the rodent population in parts of West Africa. We move to the foreign scene, where the Taliban has not been invited to a United Nations organized conference on Afghanistan in Doha, with the Afghan group convening the South Asian country saying that the two-day meeting would be ineffective without its participation. Envoys from the United States, China, and Russia called to the 2 days of closed-door talks by UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres in the Qatari capital. And finally, from the world of sports, manager Mikel Arteta has said that the Premier League title race is not over and Arsenal still have the nicest part of the season to come. On Sunday, the Gunners lost top spot to Manchester City, who beat them 4-1 on Wednesday and hold a 1-point advantage with a game in hand. Arsenal have spent 247 days at the top this season compared to City's 16. Arteta said Arsenal, who are without a win in 4 games, want to put things right at home to Chelsea on Tuesday. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Francis Adet. Do have a wonderful morning. I'll leave you with Uyai and Janice for the rest of Rise and Shine.
Voting for Spectrum TV to improve
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Francis Edet just took us through tidbits of global news, moved the city closer to its dream of becoming a smarter city. We also saw the fact that Senator Godswill Akpabio, of course, who is currently a senator-elect, visited President Muhammadu Buhari to defend his ambition for the seat of the Senate presidency. Of course, we also saw lecturers and doctors of course, encouraged, yes, promised by Chris Ngige. Celebrations. Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the just concluded election, was at the scene, of course, also gave his words over the elections. President-elect also Bola Tinubu Tinubu also gave his words, marking yesterday's Workers' Day celebrations. These and more are some of the things that we talked about. Of course, we saw the fact that President Muhammadu Buhari encouraged the president-elect to do right by workers once he assumed office. Of course, people will continue to ask, how right did the Buhari-led administration do by the citizens? But these are the concerns and questions that we've talked about. One way to catch up on all that is follow us across all social media platforms. These videos are available on YouTube and on Facebook. Of course, you can engage the conversations across all the social media platforms also. At this point, we'll be going straight on to our daily spotlight, where we bring you stories from the front pages of an hour.
On Daily Spotlight, we look at some of the major stories making it on the front pages this morning of our national dailies. And we're starting this morning with the Punch newspaper. And the big story here says, Tinubu promises tougher decisions. NLC demands new retirement age. We also have on the rider, Labour recommends 65 years retirement age, 40-year length of service. President-elect seeks understanding, says hard decisions coming soon. Okay, you can find details of that story on page 2. Moving ahead now, we also have NAD fumes as Ngige condemns doctors' entitlement mentality. Okay. Police, DSS, INEC joint panel invite suspended. All the stories here that says motorists stranded as flood takes over Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Long Bridge. Sudan, Egypt opens borders for stranded Nigerians. Lawless naval rating brutalizes Ogun man over parking space. And Senate presidency, Akpabio meets Buhari. Defense ambition. These are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch.
Moving on from the Punch newspaper, I will take the Nigerian Tribune. The very big story on Nigerian Tribune this morning says salary payments will be difficult from June if now this is a statement from Obaseki. Now, if the economy of a country is in a terrible state, it will be a miracle for the federal, and either of this decision will bring more hardships and pains to us as a people, particularly to you workers. That story can be found on page 2, and that is such a serious alarm being blown there by Governor Obaseki. Okay, we also see here Egypt has opened border to Nigerians fleeing Sudan, says federal government. El-Rufai Abbas split Northwest governors over lobby for position. We also see here official bullying pattern of judiciary emerging article. We also only APC NEC can initiate my expulsion, Lukman tells Adamu. That story can be found on page 16. Bandits killed 518 in Zangon Katav in 6 years. Community Association, very sad story, page 26. NAFDAC begins testing of Indomie noodles today. Page 27. Of e-call up system of Lekki Ekpe corridor to ease gridlock. Okay, my administration will take tough decisions but fight for workers, says Tinubu. Respect workers' rights. Buhari task incoming government. NLC demands 65 years retirement age. Khan wants better welfare for workers. It's Tribune.
We go over now to our next paper, and that is the Daily Sun. The big caption on the Daily Sun says, Sudan, Egypt opens border for fleeing Nigerian students. The writer says Buhari engages President Sisi. I'll fight until I regain my mandate, says Peter Obi. 10th National Assembly, Senate's leadership frustrates plans to alter own rule, okay, as lawmakers keep vigil. That story can be gotten on page 27. UTME JAM announces date for release of results, reshadows UTME for some candidates. Workers hail Uzodinma back his second term bid. Moving on, APC leadership crisis. Suspend me. Lukman dares National Working Committee. Page 28 is where you get details of that story. National Assembly members must remain alert. Reject grazing reserve bill, says Autumn. Page 28 is where you get that story from. Ogwain hands over medical diagnostic center to NSIA. You can get details on page 28. Moving ahead, Tinubu May Day. Tinubu promises workers goodies. And the writer says, declares, I'll give you more than minimum wage. Buhari advises incoming kidnappers of 2 Catholic priests in Delta. I hope that arrest will be made out of that. And of course, we see a pictorial story now of the Nigerian Labour Congress alongside the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and other past and present Labour leaders during the May Day celebration that was held at the Eagle Square in Abuja. And that's all we have.
Ganduje to Kwankwaso, God will not allow anybody destroy our new Kano Emirate. Okay, we also have here Obi, contrary to reports, I was never arrested in London, says he was only stopped for routine immigration checks. LP crisis deepens as a Papa-led group holds NEC tomorrow. Okay, Sanusi, it's Nigeria's loss. Oshibajo was not elected president. Very strong conversation there. Buhari charges successor to respect workers' rights. Abdul Razak celebrates workers. Okay, that's the picture story there. We also see Obaseki. Federal government may be unable to pay salaries beyond June without removing fuel subsidy. Massive printing of money. I think that's such a serious alarm that Obaseki is blowing right there, and you know that should be looked into. But that's all the stories that we have on the front page of this day newspaper.
Okay, let's take the Nation, and coming from the Nation newspaper now, pay rise coming for health workers, lecturers, others, of course, wage. Okay, that's the big story there. Moving on, Nigeria's forex reserves loses $1.82 billion. Inflows decline. Government officials suspended over alleged salary padding. That story can be found on page 5. Strike notice by resident doctors absurd, says minister. And JAM to release UTME results today. These are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nation newspaper. I think that should be our last paper for this morning. I guess.
That's all.
Okay, that's all we have on the papers this morning. Quite interesting stories, mind-boggling ones also. Coming from Sanusi, saying that what does he say now? It's Nigeria's loss. Osibajo was not elected president. Now, these are very deep conversations and big conversations, you know, on the front burner this morning at some point. And I also remember all the, you know, political brouhahas that, you know, took place within the period that he was also, you know, vying for that particular position, where you had the likes of the President-elect Bola Asiwaju Tinubu saying that he doesn't have a son that is ripe enough to contest, you know, for that particular seat, all in the name of it's my turn and Miloko and all of that too. But we saw when you talk about the man Osibajo, you talk about brilliance, you talk about a lot of technocrats, you talk about a lot of things that, you know, accompanies this man, and you need to hear him talk about Nigeria. Even in global spaces and global platforms, you know that this is one man that has the interest of the country at heart, and one man that has the capacity also to deliver on good governance too. But again, I'm not sure this is the, you know, thought process of a lot of Nigerians. There are some Nigerians that think that no, it may not be time. We've not really seen that push, you know, coming from Osibajo. But again, some people will tell you that for the most times that the country was left in his care, he delivered that too.
It's not like it's more like some of the best times in the 8-year administration of the Buhari-led government. But then we can't even say that Osibajo did not quite push for, you know, that particular seat. All of that push ended at the point where it was Bola Tinubu who clinched the ticket of the party. If you remember quite well, he didn't step down. He followed through with his all that delegate voting and all of that. But Sanusi knows why he necessarily embrace. Do they think that he has the muscle to move the country, you know, in some kind of ways, you know? But we hope not. We hope that the loss is not to that kind of magnitude. Whatever is behind
colossal loss.
Yes, whatever is behind Sanusi's mind. And then again, you would want to calculate, does he have a chance to be able to become president again?
Maybe in the next electoral
yes, but then you say the South, it's more like the conversation is more like Nigeria has lost the opportunity forever for Sibajo to be president, but we don't know how these things work. But if we are calculating by those things, it looks like we've lost the opportunity to ever see Yemi Sibajo as president.
But I think that governance is all encompassing. You don't have to be a president before you push through in terms of advice, in terms of also, you know, participating in some key positions. We never can tell. Osibajo might be part and parcel of this, but I don't really see it that unless I become the president or unless I become the governor of the state, before I can begin to, you know, try to influence some certain policies, or before I begin to advise government, you know, as Osibajo is right now, the position of a vice president, he's a major stakeholder in this country, right? So if he feels that he can actually advise in a particular capacity, then he should go ahead to do that. It's not until he becomes a president that he should begin to act.
But the weight of the president is quite different from playing an adversarial role, because if you advise and the
advice is not taken,
and the advice is not taken, they don't see what you see, you know, from that, then it still stifles how much impact you have. But then there's a line of thoughts you were pushing that is true for me. If you remember, our former president Goodluck Jonathan has continued to represent Nigeria and even Africa because of what he represented as president. So we also have an expectation, and we see Yemi Osibajo in that particular light. After the that is really pushing the conversation about climate change and the green energy, moving from fossil fuels. His energy is youthful in terms of governance, and we do hope that he still, you know, gets the opportunity to be able to continue contributing his quota to the country, whether or not he became president, like you said.
Definitely. And even talking about Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, we also talk about former president Olusegun Obasanjo. The relevance is just there. He has not gone into oblivion. His relevance is just there. So even in this political season, we saw a lot of going back to pay visits and homage and ask for blessings and endorsements and all of that. So I think that with what Osibajo has done as the vice president of the country. But of course, you know that our phone lines are open. I like to hear from Nigerians, you know, in terms of some of those issues that have been raised this morning. So do also call us if you can. And of course, you can also send us messages, WhatsApp messages or text messages to the numbers being displayed on your TV screen. And I know that a majority of the conversations this morning has been on the on the issue to say, look, do workers right, you know, be sensitive to the plight of workers. and all of that. And the Minister of Labor and Productivity again. Will Nigerians accept it? And I don't even want to talk about the comments I saw under that particular post. But then, while the people, men and women, that will form the present cabinet of the president-elect, and see how that can also move us forward as a country.
Yeah,
as well.
there's a lot of fingers crossed right there. Itchy eyes to see who exactly gets in the cabinet. But then, pictorial story here on the Punch newspaper showing motorists stranded as flood takes over Lagos Ibadan Expressway is a problem. Of course, there was expectation that that particular road was going to be fixed. It was due for, and it's I can just imagine what travelers will be experiencing on that particular route into Lagos. But these are issues, like we said, how you mark things as very important for the people coming in. Like, please, once you come in, make sure that this is handled and this is sorted. I think these are more the story. I think there is a brawl that is rising around Sanusi and the emirship. What new tussle this is all about, right there on that particular
Remember also there's been talks of the revisitation of the expulsion. Because this morning we hear that our guest is up and ready to join us now for our focused conversation. 28 days, Muhammadu Buhari, who have spent 8 years on the saddle of leadership, to the president-elect May 29 is the question and the focus that we have this morning. Joining us virtually is Victor Anilaju, who is the founder. Victor Anilaju, and many thanks for joining us from Lagos this morning. Would I start by saying Happy Workers' Day to you? We're still celebrating workers across the country.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was saying Happy Workers' Day. Aren't you a worker? Happy Workers' Day, Victor.
We're happy that we're alive and alive. We thank God that our country is still together. Even if we pray or we wish that Nigeria is far better than we want to make sure that that hope come into reality.
Okay.
Thank you once more for having me on the show.
I'm quite excited about your point of view this morning. But we have a situation after May 29. We know that there's going to be an inauguration of the president-elect Bola Tinubu. Now, can you hear me?
Okay, well, first, I just wrote my new book. So in that, you should be able to attend to. So the first thing we're expecting the next government to handle is hunger. Hunger is something to feed themselves daily. So, and I believe that, like they will say, a hungry person is an angry person. So imagine if you have 40 million people for anything that is not legally lawful, then we still want the next government to look into our healthcare. Our healthcare have over 4 million homeless people in Lagos. So you could just do that multiplication and see how it runs through the system top notch. Then you start looking at education, we'll start looking at employment, we'll start looking at the economy, we'll look at the environment. As we speak today, we need to create laws to promote the green areas are as good as every other developed country in the world. Then we'll start looking at our leadership, our style of leadership. We are not doing well when it comes to leadership as we speak right now. Then that takes us to the labor, those who are working daily to make sure that our society, its age should be able to take care of your feeding, your healthcare, the education of your children, and also give you a very good housing scheme that will take care of our workers in Nigeria. Then we'll look at power. If we can solve our power problem, we'll solve the Nigerian problem over 50%. Why? It's because Nigeria is a developing country. We need power to do any business we want to do today. Right? I know of a lot of persons who are doing business. They spend 80% of their profits to buy diesel, to create alternative power supply. I know the studio you are seated right now, I guess it's running on alternative power supply. And I will tell you, that's one of your greatest. We want to see that Nigerians become productive. So we want to see more industries being built. We want to make sure every local government has an industry that produces something from their local government. We want to make sure that every state can boast of food production or use their raw material within the state to produce things that we can buy here in Nigeria and also within Africa before we talk about global world. Then we just want to live in peace. But like I always say, peace is a result. It's not the process. Peace is what you get after you have put every structure in place. You have been able to take care of the people. That's where you get peace. Peace is not something that just shows up like that. So we are expecting all of this. The reason why I had to write that book now is so that every Nigerian will have the book and have an understanding what they should expect from the government or what they should demand from the government. Because I am raising that movement that will make us as citizens to lay demand on our government, not just the president. We are talking about the governors. We're talking about even your local government chairman. We're talking about the senators. We're talking about the House of Reps. We're talking about those who are representing us in House of Assembly. So if you read my book, I've stated it out. I stated the problems and the legislators that will help us to live in a country where everybody can benefit from the government. One of our biggest problems have been that a lot of us Nigerians don't know what we should ask from our government. So some persons today, they are asking for money. Even if you are being paid 250,000 today as a civil servant in Nigeria, it can't take you, it can't feed you and 2 or 3 children. But we need a government. You don't need to increase our salary, just provide us basic like accommodation. So give us a housing scheme where we can pay for over 25 years. Give us a platform where we can buy it for about 25,000 naira or 20,000 naira. And you can do that one per family. So if you divide Nigeria into 4 or 7 per family, you have over 40 million families in Nigeria. So we are expecting the next government to be able to say, what do we do for these 40 million families that we have in Nigeria? Do we want to make sure every family have one person that is employed? So with that family, we have health cover that covers the entire 5 to 7 members of that family. I think we actually need a government that works.
Expectations towards what we will be demanding from this present administration when it is officially inaugurated on the 29th of May. I also think that we should begin to ask questions like, can the government actually live up to these expectations? Maybe some people would argue that it's pretty too early to begin to ask if they can live up to the expectation, but I think it's the right question to begin to ask now. Okay, so I'm going to take a few of what you have said, like the issue of poverty, people not even having what to eat, and the issue of security is very, very necessary that we begin to deal with this. But when you look at security, for instance, you begin to ask, 8 years on the saddle of government from the Buhari-led administration, we've not been able to really nip this on the bud. So how is it expected that the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be able to deliver security for us as a country?
So is look out for those natural resources that God has given to us. Use our human resources. We have over 65% of our population are young people who are ready to work and earn a living. So when you get the natural resources, you get the human resources, you bring them together, you make the people become productive. And once you make the people become productive, and we can trust the government, they are transparent. When the government is transparent, the government is sincere to make sure that for every one person that is working is able to get paid or get the benefit of working. That's where we will start from. This whole problem cannot be solved in 1 year or in 2 years, but we just need a sincere government that is actually after always being having the wrong persons in government, right? So, and that is what we are saying right now. When we make the demand on the government, it will help them to focus more on the people. We always have people from APC that is interested in their pockets. That's one of the doom that have happened to us in this country. The Buhari administration had a focus of solving the security problem, but because of selfish reasons, because of personalities in your show, leadership is about trust. You can't lead a people that don't trust you. Even if you are taking the right decision, if they don't trust you, they will not follow you. And to solve Nigeria problem, you don't just need just the president. You need the people. In fact, you need 80% commitment from the people. If we have a president that can give us 10% commitment, and we have the people that can give us 80% commitment, Nigeria will be transformed. So we have to go back to that same trust. When we have that trust in our leader, we will follow suit. You could see that pre-election period without dropping a dime. We went to the polling units, we organized ourselves, we voted for him. At the end of the day, INEC announced another person entirely. What I'm trying to say is that should show you that in the Nigerian spirit are people who want to work, who want to get it right. But we have people in APC government that want to frustrate Nigeria towards the right direction. But with all of this idea, if you have the wrong people in power, we might just have another 8 years of hardship, suffering, and people are stealing, people are embezzling billions of naira, and they are going scot-free. So that's why we are saying the major thing is to place a demand on the governments, from federal to state to local right now. So any person that we can trust that can bring the desirable solution that will first of all make sure that every family, the over 40 million families in Nigeria, have a good meal on their table. Our healthcare is taken care of. Our housing is in town. Our education system is working. Our armed forces, they are working. But all of these things, we need somebody, a leader that will be able to inspire Nigerians. Just like we saw during the election. We had a candidate that was able to inspire Nigerians, and we all went to get our PVC to make sure that we vote.
Okay, so in terms of, let's talk a little bit. You're leaning towards the conversation on as to how to, receive or what to expect out of this administration. We do not have Nigerians that can actually say, okay, this is what we expect. Right now you're talking about what we should expect in terms of infrastructure, the things to be done. But Nigerians do not know if we should stay on the side of hope or on the bleakness of hope. We don't know. There's a mixed feeling around that. But one of the concerns that we have right now is that there are, what do we call them, allegations that opposition might be facing a lot of trouble in the coming administration. You're already leaning towards some opposition conversations, but what are your thoughts about the coming administration? Do you think they're at risk of any problems?
Just like you said, the APC-led governments, they are always scared of opposition. So they start going out to threaten people in the opposition, like arresting them, even killing some persons, So will we rather, permit me to say, die for the right cause than live for the wrong reason? So the next government, whoever they will be in power, whether it's APC, we pray it's not, but should be ready to face a lot of opposition from the people. Nigerians are wiser now. Nigerians are more educated now about what we should expect from government. And with the introduction of what we can demand from our government.
Okay,
We are not
I think
asking the
Victor,
government
I think we just
to
have to play
resign.
down. We just have to play down on your book, if not so. But let's play down on your book this morning and try to address the situation Democratic Party and of course the Labour Party. There's another group of opposition which are the youths, and the major tool that they use, is the social media. So, but let's look at the core opposition will be going forward. When we talk about PDP, they have a split group, which means that the whole PDP family is not together as we speak. We talk about the Labour Party, they are having a serious leadership tussle, okay? It's that the opposition themselves are not together, So how will we begin to expect much of the job coming from these opposition parties?
To individuals. If you follow the history of this country, opposition coming from parties has not actually worked. So going forward, we want the individuals, the citizens, will now become those in power and those who become the opposition. So I am not wishing, or I'm not hoping that we want to have a PDP to be an opposition to the next government. For good leadership, we want Nigerians to rise, and that's why I mentioned my book. The reason why I mentioned my book, that's the reason. The reason is to motivate Nigerians to rise up to government where they can speak and demand for their rights. We're not asking for the basics. The reason for government is for them to be able to provide and protect the citizens. That's the primary reason for every government all over the world, to provide for her citizens. Awareness that will make we Nigerians should place a core demand for our fundamental human rights on our leaders. And if they are unable to do that, they will not give us a reason for them to be impeached, or for us to say, I'm banking on the opposition from Nigerian citizens, right? Because that's where the movement is coming from.
And how much pressure will that even have, or effect will that even have
on the government?
Yes.
Because if you're saying we do not expect such a strong opposition from the People's Democratic Party, neither the Labour Party, if we cannot have a structure to push our opposition through, how well do you think that citizens on their own, with their loud voices via social media, will be able to get the...
No, the truth about it is that especially the APC-led government, is scared of Nigeria APC. Whenever there is like this coming together of citizens to like make a demand, just like what you saw during the NSAS. The NSAS was not a movement of PDP or Labour Party. And that's what we want to build on, where citizens creating that awareness. Once Nigerians are aware on what to do, we will come out in mass on doing it. But I'm going to tell you, 18 states, all right? So, and we're not seeing any difference between PDP and APC. In fact, APC now is just the branch of PDP, because 80 on party opposition, right? I'm backing on opposition that is coming genuinely from the citizens. I even believe in union opposition, where the teachers can come out and say, okay, we're asking for welfare for our teacher or his specialist hospital. We need the doctors to wake up. We need different unions to even wake up. We need the transport leaders to wake up to say our government need to fix our roads ASAP. So the president will start seeing that good leadership emerging. But because for many years we have allowed those in our government to do whatever they feel like doing, and that is why we're where we are today, right? I'm not saying the parties should not play their opposition. So I'm not going there. The opposition that I want us to work towards is an opposition that is engineered by the citizens. It's not a position that is saying the president should be the people, and that's the opposition that I will want to work with, and I hope to champion during the next dispensation.
I think very salient points you have raised concerning what leadership should be like. Nigerians will be willing to trust the administration eventually.
Okay, for a start, I would say no, voted for. And we still hope that the judiciary system is going to give us that person we voted citizens to create more demand on the next government, where we will now start looking at who are those leading us, where are they coming from? Because the last election just showed us something. Even if you have visionary leaders as candidates of political, so we want to make sure that any person that is going to occupy the INEC chairmanship, any person that is going to be the Minister of Health, any person that's going to be the Minister of Finance, are people who have credibility, who have capacity, who are competent, and people who care for the people. So Nigerians now, we are now more better and more informed to know that it's not just about having a good, down to CBN, right? Down to our road transport union, right? We just need, so there's this feeling for us now to start having people who are credible in seat of governance, so that we will be sure they will be able to achieve it. So I think there is so much demand that is going to be coming on the next individuals that either will be elected or appointed into government offices. The office holder should be able to do for them, so that we cannot use that as a template to make demand, right? And good build in every capacity.
Okay, so still
right?
still leaning on the conversation of belief, right? Still leaning on the conversation of belief. Let's talk collaboration between the opposition, the citizenry, and different parastatals at this time with the incoming administration by the Nigerian populace. Let's talk about how we can go beyond this hurt and collaborate with the government as they will be inaugurated into power on the 29th of May. What do we do to go forward as a people, although widely we think that's
a clear-cut vision, and we need to make our demands to be straight. And I don't want to make a discussion about my book, but that's what the book is about. It's like Nigeria. So that book itself is to inspire Nigerians to know what we need to demand for. When we all agree and make a clear-cut demand, and we are pushing it from the local government level that we want, politicians will take advantage of us. We need to know what we want. We need to know what is our benefit as a Nigerian citizen. What tell you that the majority of the Nigerian citizens don't know their fundamental human rights, and they don't know what they should demand from the government. Some feel that they should just demand for the government as of today to have affordable housing and should have also a health cover for their family. I live in Lagos. Every day I see these young men and a car hit you. What will happen? She said nothing. She was even telling us that two of her friends or two of her colleagues, they have lost their life in the process of cleaning the road, and the vehicle come and hit them, and they didn't even give them compensation and all of that. Free buses that takes them to work. How well is the government taking care of the workers? That should be what we should put on board, And if you read my book,
let's really play down on it.
Okay.
Let's come back a little bit. I like the fact that you're saying that governance is not just about the president. You have even to the local issue here, and I don't know whether that's going to be like an interplay of personal interest when it comes to appointments. We also have this morning in the papers, don't you also see that or let's talk a little bit more about the interplay of personal interest when it comes to appointments.
So the truth about it, that has been the negative pattern of the APC-led government to get now their own greedy agenda, right? But you see, because the Senate House is not something that the citizens have control over, you have to be a senator for you to be election. So the highest bidder wins the vote, right? But the truth about it is that that is why I'm saying that Nigeria. So it still boils down to what we're saying. When the people know what they want, if your senator is not representing what you want, call him back. You have to call him back. I think for us as citizens, I'm focusing more on the citizen right now because I'm not expecting so much from the APC-led government, if you understand the direction I'm going. So we are taking the power to the citizens right now to mark them, you have to build them, to put them on their toe and to hold them accountable for, because the reason these political office holders, they are earning so much. They earn hundreds of big kobo that they earn at this point. They must work for it.
Okay.
They must be accountable to us, not to their party APC. It's not APC that puts them there, right? Even if we know some of them rig their way into that political place, they are not there to go and represent APC. We will try to create that awareness. We will try to call out some persons. We will try to create some information. What is expected of you as a president? What the president should be able to do? What is expected of
your last word, because our time is up. What's going to be your last word moving forward now? Very quickly, in about 30 seconds, you do that.
Okay, format in mass and hold our government accountable for every decision, every action or inaction they will be taking to make sure that they do everything they need to do right. And I will sum it all. If you love me, go get my book.
That's this morning.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's a great conversation there. At the end of the forward, I mean, inauguration is in 27 days. A lot of things look like it's going to be sacrosanct. So we need to be ready to move. And he has said it's the responsibility of means that this birthing of a new Nigeria that we've been clamoring about is actually on the laps of Nigerians. And I hope we can do all the most that we can.
Yeah, definitely. Accountability demand for these accountability. But going through and brooding over some of the things and expectations he has set so far, you know very well that these are basic needs that every citizen in a country wants
and
is
governance
expected.
is absolutely about
Governance. You know, so it's not too much to ask, but we're keeping up. We just hope that everything works out well, and we have like a new Nigeria that we've all been clamoring for under the administration of
on today's Rise and Shine show. We want to appreciate everyone who joined us from all over the country and other parts of the world, of course. My name is Uyai, and I can thank you for choosing Spectrum Television and Rise and Shine.
Tomorrow. My name is Janice Kobum. See you again tomorrow. We leave you with Sports Central now, Blyden Ukem and Isaac.